obviously Frank and I are having the most interesting discussion. The Princeton Project, democratic peace, hegemony, and imperialism. We've come to a comparison between a liberal world order and a Confucian one.
So, how are they alike?
Both offer a grand and unified vision of order for all peoples and societies.
Ling may have ruled as a concept for 2 millennia, but it was never realized. And in modern times, it hasn't even served as a concept. Why is it relevant for us today?
Actually, Brother Monk, that is not quite accurate. Tianxia has always been an active concept in Confucian Asia. Even until the last World War, scholars and officials were debating it from Beijing to Hanoi, Singapore to Tokyo, and today Tianxia is regaining attention in the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, present a related concept in harmonious world for international affairs.
Well, some say Tianxia is just a rhetorical ploy by the Chinese government to resist U.S. pressures to liberalize, rather than an actual prescription for foreign policy.
That might be true, but who knows for sure. Moreover, this tactic makes Tianxia more, not less appealing. A scholar from China, for example, suggests that the CCP is in a better position than any time in Chinese history to realize Tianxia's goal of a harmonious world.
Still, what makes Tianxia worthy of our attention?
To answer this question, we must review what Tianxia means.
Quite right, Sister Nan. According to one authoritarian source, Tianxia has 3 meanings. First, the universe or the world. Second, the hearts of the peoples or the general will of the people. And third, a world institution or a universal system for the world, a utopia of the world as one family. Altogether, this conveys a sense of worldness under Tianxia.
Liberalism accounts for the liberal world order. What is Tianxia's organizing ideology?
Ren.
What the Confucian classics refer to as humaneness or sociality.
Yes, my knowledge, of course, is a bit incomplete, but please allow me to share what I know. The Analects define Ren as the ability to love all men. Ren is composed of 2 radicals or roots. One refers to person, and the other, the number 2. It is literally a society of 2 or more persons. One is necessarily and always meshed with the other. For Ren comes from a sense of multiplicity. The grand historian Sima Qian drew on what he called mutual illumination to extract truth in plurality. He would record an assassin, for instance, as a romantic avenger in one passage and bandit in another, for it is suggested that we may get at the truth of this character. Su Si, the famous Song Dynasty poet, put it in another way. One could relate differently to the same object, he said, even if it is inanimate, depending on one's relationship to it. Mornings, I view Blue Mountain's breath. Evenings, I view its distant reach. Blue Mountain assumes many appearances, turning about to pose for its lover. Such is the extent of my knowledge.
Thank you, Sister Nan, for such a learned exposition. How is Ren expressed or exercised?
Through exemplary power, or Da. The Confucians believed that power comes from an ethical order, not just political institutions or military might.
Sorry to interrupt, but this concept of Da, it seems to contrast completely with the notion of state power in the liberal world order.
That's right. Da requires no fixities like borders or sovereignty or even a national body like a government to give it meaning. Rather, Da emanates from a leader's proper cultivation. This depends on how the leader relates to family, community, state, and the universe. The reverse applies as well. That is, how the universe, the state, the community, and the family relates to oneself. The idea is that if a society's leader is able to put such an admirable standard of virtue, then the rest of society cannot help but follow. Each element depends on the others. Each also determines the others. All contribute to Da. That is Tian Sha.
How does Tian Sha govern then?
As a world family, Tianxia calls for cherishing men from afar, typically the Chinese emperor as the son of heaven and center of the Confucian world order, would pacify barbarians by offering a marital alliance between one of his sisters or concubines with a tribal chieftain. All become members of the emperor's family, both literally and politically.
What about the role of the economy?
People must live well, that's all. This means having adequate food, clothing, and shelter. More so, the people should be able to enjoy their lives, and not just trudge from one chore to the other.
And military matters?
A good example comes from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Many today mistake it for a Chinese version of Machiavelli's The Prince, or a manual for cutthroat strategies in war or business. These overlook Sun Tzu's own purpose, philosophy, and world view. He, Sun Tzu, preferred diplomacy, negotiations, and even deception over war. His perfect scenario was to win war without spilling blood or wasting treasure. But if war was inevitable, then he urged caution by minimizing the costs. Sun Tzu was not just being prudent or humane. He believed that opposites complemented each other, and thereby producing the possibility of change at all times. Where there's hardness, for example, there's also softness. Fixity, mobility. Bravery, cowardice. Victory, defeat. Everything is subject to change. Nothing can be taken for granted.
What about relations with others? What does Tian Sha propose in this regard?
Transformation.
From what to what?
Over to friend, stranger to family, is the other side of cherishing men from afar.
Is this fundamentally different from the liberal world order?
Yes and no. The liberal world order demands assimilation, like coming up to par, whereas Tian Sha seeks transformation, to be my family and friend. But they overlap in one area, and that is the direction of change. Like the liberal world order, transformation under Tian Sha is one way only. It seeks always to turn the barbarian toward the Confucian, periphery to the center. But should transformation fail to take place, Confucian transformation does not discipline or reform others. They are seen simply as mired in barbarity.
Perhaps we could sum up the discussion so far. Let us draw a comparison between the liberal world order and Tian Sha. Everybody, please help me with some suggestions.
Given all this, could one conclude that Confucians and liberals alike offer a world order of top-down, one-way power?
One would have good reason to. Sun Tzu himself may have preferred peace over war, diplomacy over defense, and strategy over brute force. Chinese history is full of wars, conquests, killings, and enslavements. Sun Tzu himself lived in one of the bloodiest eras in Chinese history. We need not rely on ancient times for evidence. Just look at Chinese policies towards our neighbors, the Tibetans, or the Uyghurs for that matter, and we get a sense of Confucian transformation in practical terms. The family serves as a poor model for world politics. We all know that families are capable of all kinds of abuses and humiliations, exploitations, and vice. Even where abuses may not occur, patriarchy still defines the Confucian family. Where is Ren in this case? Aren't China's current controversies with the Tibetans and Uyghurs as much a product of liberalism as Confucianism? Or are all the Tibetans agitating for sovereignty and the Uyghurs for civil rights? No doubt, Sister Nun. For this reason, many in Asia today seek to decolonize, de-imperialize, and de-Cold War the region. It's not that they are against sovereignty or civil rights. They want to define these concepts on their own terms, for their own circumstances, rather than the West. They ask, what is Asia anyway? The continent of Asia has always been dynamic, fluid, and multiple. The Silk Road, after all, mixed peoples, languages, cultures, and religions for 15 centuries.
All this very nice, but what about world order? It seems we have decided that though the liberal world order and Tian Sha may each have worthy elements, both remain hegemonic and imperialistic. Neither offers a sustainable order for the world.
Is a world order necessary?
We can't escape having one, since globalization entwines us all for good or ill. And given the amount of suffering that passes for daily life, in so many parts of the world today. Is it not better to have a world order by design than by default? What to do, learn one? How should one proceed?
What if, as the Silk Road reminds us, we were to turn to our own long and venerable traditions for inspiration and insight?
Excellent idea. Third one, after all, our monastery stands in testament to one who has given us a legacy of worlds and how to find order within them.
Who is that?
Why, the 7th century monk, Xuanzang, of course.
You mean the monk who was immortalized in the 16th century Chinese classic Journey to the West?
In those days, the West meant India. Today, our prior brother monk is remembered throughout the Buddhist world.
Well,
We have arrived at a momentous juncture in our discussion. I'm sure we'll progress with greater vigor after our noonday repast, prayers, and daily chores. Shall we?
Has it made any kind of difference in terms of your relationship to this knowledge that we're studying?
I just wanted to say that we worked really hard at the whole pronunciation of words, and we all of us had different limitations with how we said things, and I think just noticing that we come from diverse backgrounds as far as, you know, what languages we speak, and there was a little bit of working on just understanding the meanings of words, but also trying to correctly pronounce it without, you know, making a mistake. And then I think I really felt like they worked well together as a group, and I think that came across too when we were reading, because from what the meaning of the story was too, this idea of working together and just being cognizant of the different traditions within this play, but also that giving notice to the tea, for example, or how things are set in place, I think was, for me, more of a awareness.
And what about this learning how to pronounce the words properly? What did that do for you, if anything?
did you have to do an extra research and ask people how to pronounce and know the symbols, the meaning of the symbols? Also opens your horizons towards knowing different culture. And the setting itself, like little symbols, like details, you see, also.
That also, did that make your relationship to the text more intimate?
Yes, more connected.
Any other feelings?
I'd say by performing it, I observed it less as a student. So I wasn't as critical when reading literature. But more of a experiential or even like a real conversation, even a friend.
What difference does that make? Since you feel you're less a student, but you're engaging more in the conversation, what difference has that made?
It sort of ingrains the information within you. It sort of becomes natural rather than like you're conversating rather than you're learning or reading. You know, so it's more of a natural sort of learning process.
It engages a different side of the brain.
I feel more connected to all of us who work together too.
Any other observations of your process in doing this?
It's kind of you become linked to your to the role you're playing. You become on this person. That's very interesting. At the same time.
And just knowing being modern versus the traditional, so bright being, a little more the modern edge.
his laptop.
Yeah, and I felt like I'm a student and this is my teachers. Also, this connection, student-teacher. Yeah.
Any other observations? Will you rise? And Ashley, will you please take your position as director so we can thank you one more time? So please rise and take your curtain call. Thank you again.